Hello, my lovely people. How are you doing? As you can see from the bright smile on my face, I am doing really well. I'm actually pretty excited to tell you that I got the opportunity to interview another author in the fantasy realm. Yes, fantasy, my favorite genre. You guys know I couldn't skip a chance. So, thank you very much, Escapist Book Tours, for getting me on board and giving me this amazing opportunity to connect with the author. The book's name here that I'm talking about, you guys, is Carved Amidst the Shadows. It also has a part 2 coming out this year itself. So you guys can stay tuned. It's an adult fantasy novel, and let me just address a few questions before we actually get into the interview portion. Number one, the book one is already out in the market, so you can check that out already. It does end on sort of a cliffhanger, but then there's book two coming right away on your path, so that's not really a problem for you guys to test it out in the meantime. Number two, the storyline here revolves around gods who actually created around five kingdoms, and then they bless their followers with certain powers for them to rule these kingdoms. But what they did not anticipate is the greed of human beings and their will to actually accumulate those powers within a concentric circle and then remove out everybody else out of it. So that's where the whole story is headed. That being said, I think I've shared enough disclaimers and information regarding the whole book and its world build up. Now let's take the opportunity to get into the whole author scenario and speak to her and get to know more about this book, its tropes, its characters, and basically everything that happens behind the scenes of writing a fantasy book. Hi everyone, this is Yamini. You are watching Procaffinate with Books, and today I have the author M.T Fontaine who has this beautiful fantasy book coming out, Carved Amongst the Shadows. And yeah, hi there, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing much great. And how are things going on with you? What's the overall process seeming like for you?
It's going really well. Carved Amidst the Shadows was my first novel. It came out uh, the 30th of August of last year. And so I've got book two coming out, Mark for the Pyre, also on the 30th of August this year.
Mhm. So, if I personally talk about the whole idea and the inspiration behind your book, how did the idea come into mind that you have to write this book?
Okay, the simplest answer to that would be the series Outlander.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds really strange since Outlander isn't, it has nothing to do with epic fantasy, which is what my book is. But in my tweens, I was writing a time travel romance novel, which kind of fits the bill.
Mm-hmm.
That got put aside when I started taking strong medications for depression.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the ideas and scenes for that story that came so easily before the medication just suddenly stopped overnight. And so about a decade or so later, about a decade and a half later, I was watching Outlander, and it got me really sad that I didn't continue writing. So I decided to force the issue and try to get my imagination back on track with little details, and it worked. And it
Great
just took a
to
while.
hear that it actually worked. Otherwise, we would have missed a fantastic piece. So I'm sure the readers would be thanking you for this.
Thank you.
So about the series, if I talk about how did you plan to develop this into a series and not just a standalone book?
It was always too grand to be just a standalone book. I originally, when I first started drafting the series, wrote a book that was much later in the series, and unfortunately, the way I had written it made it so there was a lot of exposition missing, and because of that, it needed earlier stories to be tacked onto it before we could get where we were.
Oh, that's sort of like a prequel introduction to the plotline that you written.
Kind of, yes. Except this plotline is extremely crucial to what happens afterwards, and it wouldn't have been the same if I had actually started where I planned originally to start.
Okay, got that. Sounds like a difficult process to me, honestly. I don't know how much goes on behind the scenes from the writer's perspective because we as a reader, even I have just seen so many memes too, that okay, I'll read a book. Yeah, it took me 2 days to read, 1 days to read, and yeah, it was a good one. And if I think about that from an author's perspective, it's quite different. It's like years of hard work going in there, so many thoughts toggling and everything. So it's quite intriguing for me as well to trying to understand your perspective. So that's why I was really keen to talk to you on these aspects.
Yeah, well, okay, first of all, when I first started writing the story, I had originally planned a dragon rider story, which has
Oh,
nothing to do with the series that is now. So it's changed a lot. Had quite a
dragon
few
riders. I
drawings.
actually love dragons, so that's always a bonus for me. The only part in Fort Ping as well that I absolutely loved was the dragon portion. So that was just a wow thing for me. Big time dragon fan. So, how did your inspiration specifically for fantasy originate? How did you start thinking that I should write fantasy?
Well, it was mainly because you're not limited in fantasy. It's you in any kind of urban story, you have to follow the laws of nature, physics, as they are currently in our world.
Hmm.
Whereas in fantasy, it's the sky, more of, not even the sky's the limit. You can imagine everything you want, and the subgenres are a lot more vast than if
Hmm.
you're talking about romance or historical fiction. So,
Yeah, they are a little constructive just from boundaries perspective.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So, have you been a reader from a childhood or in your adult life?
Yes, as a child, I did used to read a lot. And then unfortunately, when I stopped writing, I lost the drive to read as well.
Oh, okay.
So
So, mhm.
I picked reading back up about a year after I started writing again.
Oh,
So, and I mean, now I read about 10 to 20 novels a month.
yeah, same pinch on that. High five. That's great. So, do you think your life as a reader has somehow influenced the kind of book that you write, or are those entirely two different areas?
I would say that it's affected my quality of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because when I first wrote the first draft of this series, it was terrible. And I'm not just talking about the story; I'm talking about the actual writing. It was just plain awful. Um, so reading really helped me work on the writing style, how characters interact, um, how the plot needs to develop, those kind of things.
Okay. And in this particular duology that you have written so far, who is your favorite character?
I have my favorite is the unpopular character, Master Raoult.
Mm. Can you tell us
Um,
a bit about him?
so he's part of the antagonists of this series. He is a magic wielder in this world where pretty much only people like him are magic wielders, and they are oppressing the kingdoms without it actually being known by most people. So it's
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. But more and more people are finding out, and he's trying to keep the control that his order has on the kingdoms.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people actually love villains and antagonists in the main story. So I think you'll find a couple of fans out there too who would actually love this character.
Yeah, it's he's complex. It's just unfortunately in book one you don't see as much of that complexity as you do in book two.
Mhm.
But he evolves as the series goes along. So it's yeah.
And given a chance, if I give you a chance, which particular scene in the book do you think you should, or you really feel that I want to rewrite this whole thing and change certain aspects in there?
The scene that I would change is the first chapter.
Why?
Um, The reason for that is I think it's lacking that extra punch that a lot of people are looking for when they pick up a new author's book.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice I made. It's a choice I made to introduce the characters this way and to really smooth into, especially the next chapter, which is brutal. So, but unfortunately, I do think that, yeah, if I had a chance, I would give it more punch from the get go.
And if given a chance, do you want these books to be converted into a movies or a series online? Anything of that sort?
I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't watch TV all that much anymore,
Mhm.
so but I would watch it.
I think your timelines would already be full with reading and writing. I'm just a reader, I don't even write, and I'm still so occupied with it all the time. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. But if given a chance and it's been adapted to a screen, which particular cast would you choose for it?
Oh gosh. The only one that I can really lock down and specifically think of would have to be Giancarlo Esposito.
Mm-hmm.
He played Gus in Breaking Bad,
Okay.
and put him as Master Raul.
Satisfied with your choices.
Yeah. The other two casts, the other two main characters, I'm not. I don't know.
Mhm.
I would leave that up to a casting director.
So, moving ahead, if I'm giving you a pivotal movement or a particular scene in your first book, then what do you think captures the whole essence? Is there a particular scene that actually reflects the overall emotion of the book or the series?
Specifically, the book has a very big found family theme,
Mm-hmm.
especially for two of the three main characters. So there's this scene where Kaianne, the female main character, gets incorporated into a carved crew, and that starts off this whole found family trope per se throughout the whole book. So just a little bit of background. In this series, everyone is born with a mark that defines them as belonging to one of the kingdoms. So they're called the marked, and then there are the people that are called the flawed, and these people are born without these magical marks, so they don't have allegiance to any specific realm. And then you have the last set of people that are called the carved, and these are people that have chosen to get rid of their marks. So, and both flawed and carved are hunted down and killed. So Kaianne, our main character, starts off the story as a marked, and she soon becomes a carved babe because of tragedy, and she has to go into hiding. She's later confronted by bandits who steal one of the only possessions she has left from her previous life. So she goes after them to get it back and ends up making a deal with the group's leader when they both discover that she's carved like them because carved stick together.
Initially, I felt like it's so brutal, but now I get the gist of it.
Yeah. It is. This is a dark story. It's
Mhm.
not. There is some comic relief in it, but it is overall pretty dark fantasy.
True. Feels like it. But I think dark fantasies, dark academia books are doing really well these days. So I hope the other one also hits the mark and gets the right attraction in the book world too.
Me too. Thanks.
And talking about the overall world build-up, I was actually visiting a website where I saw these maps and artworks that were created. And I really love world build-ups and fantasy maps specifically. I'm a huge fan of those. So I was thinking about what is the story behind this map build-up? How do you guys come across like creating a specific map for your world?
Um. Okay, so the map came after actually writing carved. So based off of writing carved, I came up with the map. Based off the travel that they do within the book. Now, I have no drawing talent whatsoever. So I tried to do the map myself. I looked at map tutorials, do-it-yourself videos, and all that kind of stuff. And every attempt I made just looked like a blob with lines. So my last technique was using the rice technique, where you just dump
I've
rice.
seen that.
Yeah, and you just trace around it. And using that, I sent that off to somebody who does a lot of maps, whether it's for Dungeons and Dragons missions, or for just for fantasy novels in general. So Tiffany to feedthemultiverse.com, and she took my ridiculous little map drawing and made it into what it is now.
Yeah, but I think the initial idea of this whole world map setting all started from your brain, because you wrote the
Yes.
whole thing without even visualizing it, which is very difficult. I hope that's the right word, because you are writing off something completely and then you are actually visualizing it, whereas people do just in the opposite direction. They see something and then they write about it, So
Yeah.
hats off to you on that.
Yeah, but I'm a pantser in my writing style, meaning that I don't outline. So as I'm writing, I come up with the story as I go. For the most part, just the middle, not the ending, not the beginning, but the middle. So because of that, especially when I was writing Carved, the map came into effect as I was writing, because I needed, this person needs to go here. So how long does it take if they're traveling by horse? So there was a lot of Google involved.
A lot of it. I think a lot of research is based around while you're actually writing or creating certain worlds as well. So
yeah,
that's interesting. Okay, now I wanted to do a this or that challenge with you. So I'll keep you pointers and I'll ask those questions to you, and you can let me know what you feel, but it should be an instantaneous answer, not much thinking around it. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. The first one, we'll go with the easy ones. Paperback or hardcovers?
Paperback.
Why?
Honestly, because they're cheaper. So I pretty much only have paperbacks.
Okay. And what is your writing style? Night writing or day scheduling?
Day scheduling.
Wow. That's nice. That's rare thing to hear, because most of the authors I've seen usually prefer writing at the night, staying out, doing all-nighter kind of stuff.
I'm lucky because I work part-time. So I work in the afternoons and I write in the mornings.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about your writing environment now, it should be a cozy nook or a hustling cafe kind of a place. What do you prefer?
Cozy. Yeah, cozy nook.
All time. Okay. And what about the writing style? Is your writing more of a Hemingway's minimalism kind of thing, or the Tolkien's descriptive style?
Okay, it's definitely more of the descriptive style. Not as much as Tolkien, though.
Yeah, that's like 4 pages of tree description.
No. Much like if you had given me a choice in the middle, I would have chosen that.
Okay. And how about the storyline? Is it more character driven or more plot driven?
Character.
And working with deadlines or taking your time to complete your work?
Working with deadlines.
And are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Tea. 100% tea.
How? I love coffee. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I love my tea.
I was just actually waiting to see if you would say coffee, then we could probably vibe on that as well. But nevertheless, I love teacups, by the way. Their designs are really beautiful. So I'm a fan of the cups.
I usually go with the huge mugs.
That's nice. My coffees are also usually in huge mugs, and drink a good chunk of it. Keep yourself recharged all the time.
I need my water.
Is this your is this your way out for drinking a lot of water via tea?
Yes.
That's good. Does it work
Yeah,
though? Is does it work?
yeah, it really does. It forces me to fill my tea back up.
Okay, I think most of our questions have been answered. Now I was just wondering, while we are moving to the final phase of this overall session, I want you to help us readers understand what can we expect in the book 2 that's coming out.
Ooh, it's going to get even darker than book 1. We're going to have flaws, a lot of flaws in the characters, much more realism in their interactions, regret and heartache, and of course war and unfortunately death.
Oh, oh no. Just
Yeah,
wanted to know, does the book 1 end on a cliffhanger?
it does end on a cliffhanger. It's not over dramatic, but it's yeah. You need to read book 2 to yeah. It's not a standalone.
Okay. Readers and viewers out there, I think you need to be prepared for it before jumping in.
Yeah.
And now, can you tell the viewers where they can actually find you on different social media so we can just stay tuned to you and check out the new book that's coming out?
Of course. So I am active on Instagram under m.t Fontaine. And otherwise, I've just recently started using Twitter, though I mainly use it just for retweets. So mt_Fontaine, and then my website, mtfontaine.com.
Great. I'll also link these down in the description as well so you guys can go click and just follow her around in there. So I think it was a wonderful session talking to you. It was brief, but I am quite satisfied with the session today. It was very interactive. Thank you so much for coming on to my platform and giving us the chance to explore your work in detail and giving us a little glimpses as well for the background story and what happens behind the scenes of writing a book. And I wish you very, very good luck for the next book that's coming out. I will stay tuned for that as well and hope to catch another ARC copy of your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to my viewers out there, I hope you had a wonderful interactive session today. And if you did like this, let me know in the comments down below which book are you going to choose up for your next fantasy read. And I'll catch up with you next time in our next video. Until then, keep your coffee strong and your TBRs long. Goodbye.